All right. So, really what we have left is to talk about sort of a few sort of mixed topics here. We're going to finish up with this slide. You guys don't have this, but I just wanted to talk about a couple things. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about cells and how they divide. And we'll talk about a few things related to birth and stuff like that. So anyway, if we were to look into the side of a pregnant woman and look inside, here's what things would look like during the development of that fetus. So again, what we have here is the uterus, the womb. It's where the fetus is growing. The wall of the uterus is where this placenta forms, where the blood vessels allow things to move back and forth between the fetus and the mother. But remember, the blood doesn't actually connect. The mother's blood doesn't go into the fetus. It's just nearby so that material can move. It's carried through the umbilical cord, which leads blood vessels into the fetus's circulatory system to move that blood around. Roman?
How come the fetus doesn't crush the blood?
I don't know, because it's held inside of this, of the uterus, which is pretty thick and strong muscle, so it sort of keeps it all contained. Then here you see the opening of the uterus. It's closed for all of pregnancy until labor starts. And during labor, that cervix opens up, it dilates, it gets thinner to allow the fetus to actually be born. And then it's born, pushed out through the vagina, through the cervix, and then it's born. If we look sort of, these are actual pictures here, this next one, of the developing embryo. They actually use very, very tiny little fiber optic cameras to get an image of the embryo as it grows. This is after about a month or so. And so what you see, this is the embryo here. Okay? And this is the placenta, so this is attached to the wall of the uterus. This is the beginnings of the umbilical cord. You can see the blood vessels in there. During the early stages, it just doesn't look like much, but you can see the start of the eye. You can see a heart in here. You can see the heart beats very early. It's one of the first organs to start to function. It has a brain and a spinal cord starting to form here. If we look a little later on, it's obviously a little more advanced. We can now see the arms and the legs. You can see the head. You can see the umbilical cord. You can see the arteries and veins carrying that blood from this embryo to the placenta up here and back.
How do you like see through the head of the fetus?
How do what?
How do you like see through?
It's just because it's very thin and very clear and just sort of transparent membrane, not so much like thick skin that you would think of. So, and then this one is showing sort of this was a pregnant woman. This is a real body. You can see that has the embryo inside of the uterus there. Give you a conception of sort of how big it is.
The heck?
I don't know. So we need to talk about cell division because we know once a sperm cell fertilizes an egg cell, it gives us a single cell called a zygote. And that single cell is going to grow into a whole human. But a human is made of trillions of cells. And so to go from a single cell to trillions of cells, those cells need to reproduce. They need to divide. And there's two ways that cells can divide. The process are called meiosis and mitosis. And you just need to know a little bit of the basics about them. Meiosis is a type of cell division that only happens in very specific times. It's to produce sperm and egg cells. So meiosis is a type of cell division that produces sperm or egg cells. We call those gametes. Now, what is different about a gamete, a sperm or egg cell, as compared to any other cell in the body? There's something unique about them. There's something unique about sperm or egg cells or gametes that makes them different from a cell in a person's brain or intestine. Jasmine?
Chromosomes.
Yeah, the number of chromosomes. Sperm and egg cell have a different number of chromosomes than any other body cell. What do sperm or egg cells have in humans? How many?
23.
23. And the reason they have 23 is because they were produced by meiosis. When a cell goes through meiosis, the number of chromosomes is sort of cut in half. So in a human, if a cell has 46 chromosomes and it goes through meiosis, it makes cells with 23. It makes those gametes. But that's the only time meiosis ever takes place in a human, is to make sperm or egg cells. Any other time that new cells are needed, like for you to grow taller, those new cells are produced by mitosis. You get a cut on your skin. The new cells that will fill in, they're made through mitosis. Mitosis is the division of normal body cells, not sperm or egg cells, just normal body cells. And it keeps the number of chromosomes the same. It's how we grow. It's how our body repairs itself. Now, if you were to break your tibia, the new bone cells that would fill in that break, they'd be made through mitosis. So mitosis is much more common. It's happening all throughout a person's body, anytime they need new cells. The only time meiosis ever happens is to make those sperm or egg cells. So that's to help you remember mitosis, like a toe. Mitosis happens in a person's toes and everywhere else in the body except for in the ovaries or testicles. So if we look at this sort of diagram, we have a cell from a man or woman, normal number of chromosomes, 46 is a normal number. Those are body cells. What are these cells?
Chromosomes.
Sex cells. Gametes, we might call them. And meiosis is the cell division that produces those gametes. Meiosis cuts the number of chromosomes in half. So we call these gametes. This would be an egg cell, this would be a sperm cell. And they have 23 chromosomes in them. Yeah. So when this sperm cell and this egg cell combine, 23 chromosomes were brought in by the sperm cell, 23 were brought in by the egg cell to get us back up to the usual number of 46. So all the cells in your body mostly have 46 chromosomes. 23 of them came from your mother, 23 came from your father. Everybody gets half of their chromosomes from each parent, 23 from each. So what would we call this one cell here? A zygote. This is a zygote. There. That zygote is going to split and form two cells. What cell division is going to make these two cells? Meiosis or mitosis?
Mitosis.
Mitosis, because again, it keeps the number of chromosomes the same. When those two split, what process does that? Mitosis. And mitosis is going to happen, millions of times to produce all the cells that are going to make an entire living human. So again, the only time meiosis ever happens is to produce sperm or egg cells. All right, to summarize, raise your hand if you can answer some of these questions. A sperm cell, raise your hand and tell me, how many chromosomes does a human sperm cell have? Avery? Correct, 23. How many chromosomes does a human egg cell have? Great. Also 23. When they combine during fertilization to form a zygote, how many chromosomes in the zygote? Isaiah? 46. What's the term we use for these sperm or egg cells, these sex cells? Destiny? What? No? Sex cell is a gamete. What's the name of the type of cell division that produces these gametes? Jasmine? Meiosis. Think about me. Meiosis produced me. Alright, so maybe. And because they're made through meiosis, they have how many chromosomes compared to
46.
normal? What about compared to a normal cell? Abigail? They have half as many chromosomes as a normal body cell. All right, we're going to talk about a couple like sort of random sort of things related to development and childbirth. So ultrasound. You've heard of an ultrasound before, right? A woman, when she's pregnant, she'll probably get an ultrasound. It might be called a sonogram. And she might get one about 10 weeks into her pregnancy. And basically a sonogram is when they use sound waves to sort of get an image of what's inside. You can get a sonogram, an ultrasound for like even your shoulder if you have a shoulder injury. But it's used when women are pregnant. What they can do is they can see how old the fetus is. They can look at the heart, see if it's properly formed. They can look at the brain and other parts and see if they're healthy. And sometimes they can tell if it's a boy or girl, depending on the position of the fetus and so forth. This is an older type of sonogram. This is when they were first sort of started to be used. This is somebody that you know.
You?
No.
Arcuri.
It's Mr. Arcuri.
Is it
Now
really?
tell by the big head. Yeah, that's Mr. Arcuri's sonogram. It is. He put this up there. He put this next little caption up there.
Ew.
So that is Mr. Arcuri. Sonograms have changed since then. Here is one. This is somebody else you know.
You?
That's your
Nope.
daughter.
Yeah, this is my daughter, Olivia, and you're great. You can look at that. So, and when I pass it around, you can see this is her head. This is her skull. You can see her nose. This is her spine there. So that's what a more modern one. It's usually white. The bones show up white on a dark background. This is sort of the opposite. But this is Mr. Arcuri's head. This is his spine. You can see kind of the legs over here.
That one looks like his
Nowadays, when my wife was pregnant with Olivia, around the time when you guys were born, that's when a new type of ultrasound started to become used, a three-dimensional sonogram. And I don't know if any of your mothers had that, but this is what the kind of image they can give you. They can give you like almost a three-dimensional view of the fetus inside. You know, all this stuff is just sort of interference from the sonogram. It's not part of the actual fetus, but again, you could see like the actual features and it's very clear.
Whoa.
It's much easier when you're looking at this than looking at, you know, something like what I'm passing around there. In these, you can actually see video. You can see the fetus moving around inside of there.
Are you watching
So,
any videos on that?
No, here's another one, a baby sticking their tongue out. But they can give you sort of a different view. Oh, this is not for you. This is for the other class. So sometimes, you know, what we would call a natural birth is a vaginal delivery. Mother goes through labor, pushes the baby out through the vagina. That's a vaginal birth. And that's that's the preferred type of birth. But there are times when, for various reasons, the fetus might be in distress. Its oxygen levels may be going down. Its heart rate may drop. And there may be reasons why they want to get the baby out as quickly as possible. And it might not be moving through the through the birth canal very quickly, and they need to take it out more quickly. And so then they might do a C-section, a cesarean section it's called. A C-section is basically removing the fetus through surgery rather than having the mother give birth vaginally. So what they do in a C-section is they make an incision across the lower abdomen, through the skin, through the abdominal muscles. Then beneath that is the uterus. They have to cut through the uterus. And then inside, that's where the amniotic sac is. So they have to rupture the amniotic sac and then basically take the fetus out through this incision, like they're taking the baby out this way, rather than it being born vaginally. And so It's another way for them to remove the baby, like I said, more quickly. It's a more difficult recovery for the mother, because again, they have to have, the uterus has to heal, the abdominal muscles that they cut through has to heal, and the skin has to heal. So it takes a lot longer for a mother to sort of recover from that than a natural vaginal birth. You know, when a woman has a C-section, she has to stay in the hospital for a few extra days, whereas when a natural childbirth, she could go home the next day. In the natural childbirth, she can be walking around and very active in the next couple days. If she has a C-section, she needs to sort of rest a lot more and can't get back to her normal activities as quickly. So they'll try to have a natural birth as much as they can, but sometimes they need to do the C-section in order for the health of the baby or the mother. Have you?
Do they knock the mother out?
She's not unconscious. So usually when they do a C-section, the mother's awake and alert and aware and talking, but she has an anesthetic which makes it so she has no feeling from like the chest down. So they can do the surgery, she doesn't feel any of that, but she is still awake and alert. Usually they put like a little curtain there, like the mother's laying down, they put a curtain so she can't see what they're doing, because that would be probably disturbing to the mother to see them cutting into her. But she's there, they can, once they remove the baby, as long as it's healthy, they can give it right to the mother so that she can nurse it right away and sort of bond with the baby right away. Sometimes it may need more care, and they may have to take the baby right away and make sure it's breathing well and its heart rate's appropriate and all that stuff. So it depends on the situation for the baby, what they're going to do with it. So let's talk for a second about twins. So there's different types of twins. Identical, fraternal, and even conjoined, which we'll talk about. So identical twins. I believe do we have one set of identical twins in your grade?
Yeah, Leo and
David, you have three.
One.
Like two
One.
and then one.
One. Only one identical.
Two.
Two.
Leo and David and
Yeah.
Ian and Trey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Trey and Ian are not identical.
yeah.
What?
I just talked to Trey last period. So hold on, we'll talk about this. So, identical twins. So how do identical twins come about?
They're identical.
But why? Like what happens inside of the mother that forms identical twins? Have y'all?
Oh, I just forgot.
Like they get the same thing.
Rowan?
Like this guy cell have 46 chromosomes.
No?
That originally happens.
The thing splits in like two.
What thing?
The egg.
Not the egg.
Sperm cell.
No?
It's a big ball.
The zygote or the embryo. So normally, you know, a woman ovulates and releases one egg cell. It gets fertilized by one sperm cell, and then we have a zygote. And it splits into an embryo, and it grows into a fetus. But sometimes when that zygote splits, or the embryo is divided, the two cells separate from each other. And instead of staying together in one little cluster, they separate, and then each of them grows into its own fetus. Now in that case, they came from the same sperm cell and the same egg cell, so they have the same exact chromosomes. They have the exact same DNA. They're going to be identical twins. Okay? It's when one egg is fertilized and then splits. They have to be the same gender. They have to be boy, boy, or girl, girl, because they have the same chromosomes. They will look identical to each other because our chromosomes control the vast majority of our appearance is determined by our chromosomes. So if you have the same exact chromosomes as someone else, you're going to look identical to them. And that's where identical twins come from. All right, so how's that different from fraternal twins?
They don't look like
They don't have to look alike.
one could be like boy, one could
They could be boy, girl. So how do those twins form? Jasmine?
Two eggs fertilized by two different sperm.
Yes, sometimes when a woman ovulates and releases an egg, sometimes not only does she release one egg, she might release two eggs, or sometimes even three eggs.
Triplets.
And in that case, if each of those eggs gets fertilized by a sperm cell, each can grow into an embryo and a fetus. But will they have the same chromosomes? No. Each one came from a different egg cell. each one came from a different sperm cell. So the chromosomes they have are going to be different. They're not going to be identical. They're going to be fraternal. Okay? So they could be different genders. They're two eggs fertilized by two different sperm cells. They don't have the same DNA. But can they look alike?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could. Like, for example, I was going through some pictures the other day. And some pictures, when my daughters were 4 or 5 years old, like they look almost the same. Like I have sometimes trouble saying, I don't know, is this Olivia or Alyssa? Because they share lots of the same genes, so they look similar at that age. So when we talk about Trey and his brother, they're not identical twins, but they still do look similar, just like some of you probably look very similar to a brother or sister. Okay? So fraternal twins end up with different chromosomes because of the way they're produced. Well, then there's this other situation of conjoined twins. You may have heard them referred to as Siamese twins. Conjoined twins are when identical twins start to form. You know, one egg is fertilized by one sperm cell. The embryo splits and starts to form identical twins, but the two cells stay touching. They don't completely separate. And so what happens is each grows into its own fetus, but they share certain organs with each other. They are connected, conjoined with each other. So they're identical twins, but the zygote doesn't split completely. These are not conjoined twins. Those are fraternal. You know who they are?
Mary Kate Nash.
Yeah.
Where are they?
They're from Full House. They're the original little girl in Full House.
Michelle.
Yeah. Michelle.
Wait, so they both played the same part?
Yeah, they both played Michelle,
Oh, damn.
but they like alternated roles. So conjoined twins. I have a video. I don't know if we're gonna get to. This is Brittany and. Anyone ever see the show?
Of course you know their names.
Brittany and
Are they your friends?
I forget what the other girl's name is. They have a show on TV. They're conjoined twins. They share major parts, major internal organs.
They share a heart.
I believe they have separate hearts, but they share most of their other parts. So they're each individual people. They both have two brains. They don't think the same thing. They both can speak, and they each control one of the arms that they have there. This is maybe the most famous conjoined twins. So have you heard of the term Siamese twins?
No.
Chinese
No.
or Siamese?
Siamese. And so these are the conjoined twins which gave that Siamese twins their name. This is Chang and Ang Bunker. They were born in, today we would call it Thailand. Used to be called Siam. And they were conjoined by some tissue in the torso. They were very famous because they moved to the United States and they actually went on tour with like the circus, and people would pay money to see them. They lived in the United States afterwards. They got married to sisters. So they got married to regular sisters. They had dozens of children. Each of the Chang and Ang each had lots of children. They all lived in the same house for a while with their wives, but then their wives started arguing, and one wife moved next door, and so Chang and Ang would have to spend like a few days with Chang's wife and her family, and then go spend a few days with Ang's wife and his family. And so I think they lived on a farm in North Carolina. So they had, like I said, dozens of children, which probably makes for some awkward times there. But anyway, Tyler?
Is there
Can't
like a
Siamese
surgery you
twins
could get?
sometimes
Oh, I had said, sorry, what?
Can't Siamese twins sometimes be separated?
Yeah, that's what Tyler was just gonna ask too. Yeah, so conjoined twins, Chang and Ang could, if they were born today, they could easily have been separated. But when they were living in the 1800s, it wasn't done. But today, yes, depending on what organs the conjoined twins share, will determine if they can be separated or not. If they share major organs, if they share one heart, you can't separate them because they both need a heart and there's only one there. If they share major parts of their circulatory system, they cannot be separated. So it depends what they share and how much of it is shared. So let me show you some of these examples, then I'll answer your question. So here, obviously, these twins, they have two heads, but they probably share most of their vital organs in their abdominal cavity, their chest. They likely would not be able to be separated. Here are two girls that share part of their brain. They're connected at the head. Here are two gentlemen that share their lower extremities and their abdominal organs. Again, another example of two conjoined twins. This was not quite a conjoined twin, but a twin that had a conjoined twin that never fully formed. So all that's left here is sort of the face. This twin was not alive. All that was left was this the head of this twin that never fully formed.
So he has to walk around with.
No, I think in this one, I believe they tried to separate to take that off, and I think this baby died during that surgery. So these are always risky surgeries. These twins were separated. Again, they share parts of their skull and so forth. They were successfully separated. But anytime doctors are trying to separate these twins, it's like a major surgery because they have to do the surgery. They have to determine which organs go in which twin, how to separate them. It's very, very complex, and it's always very risky. So, parents that have twins that are conjoined like this have to decide, well, do we just let our twins live like this, conjoined, or do we take the risk that one or both of them may not survive, but to give them a more normal life afterwards? So it's something that parents decide with the doctor's sort of advisement. Doctors tell them best they can what the chances are. These were conjoined twins that also were born with a fraternal triplet as well. So these were triplets. One set was conjoined with the twins and the other was not. I don't think I'll be able to show you this video now. Destiny?
What happens if like one twin dies?
For Chang and A, I forget who died first. One of them, so Chang and A, they lived, so they were pretty old. One of them died of, I think, pneumonia. And because one of them was dead, decay started to set in and spread to the other twin before, because what they would have done, the doctor would come over and tried to separate the twin that had died from the healthy twin, but they weren't able to do that in time, so the other twin died just like a couple days later.
If you separate them, don't they have like a problem after that or something?
I mean, it depends what they share, and it depends how the surgery goes. So there could be a lot of risks. Obviously, if they share, like most of their torso, they each only have one arm, right? If they only have two arms between the twins, you separate them, they each have one arm. So there's a lot of things that the doctor has to take into account.
I have three identical uncles. So it's kind of
Three identical, they were triplets?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that happens.
All of these are J, so it gets confusing.
What's your-
Jasmine?
Jason. Oh yeah, one of them can start with J.
The animals
Oh my god. That's scary.
can also be born conjoined. Here's some examples. Two-headed kitten.
That's scary.
What is that?
A dragon?
Is that a fish? That,
This turtle.
I like
Oh,
whales.
that's
Really, Moby?
Moby, yeah, that's a twin.
so funny.
All right. Any questions about
What
any
is
of
that
those?
thingy next to the cat?
Snake.
Oh.